Hi, ladies. Thank you for tuning in to the Tell the Truth on Your Identity docu-series. Today, we are here with Courtney. She's going to share her story with us of identity as well as her truth. But without further ado, here's Courtney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Underwood. I'm the CEO and HR Alignment Strategist at HR Consulting and also the founder of Passports and Purpose. I live in Chicago, born and raised. I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a teacher, just so many things. And I'm excited to bring all that I am to the table today, to the conversation, to share my journey, to share the things that I've learned, the things that I would have done differently, but I know that they're really excited to get into it and start the conversation. And so I founded my first business, Passports and Purpose, in 2016, and it is an apparel and accessories store with two distinct collections. The Passports collection, which is travel and affirmation apparel and accessories, and then the Purpose collection, which is strictly about shirts and accessories that are conversation starters. Right now we have a limited edition work from home collection because it's timely, with lots of fun teas to kind of reflect that experience. But while I was in the entrepreneurial space, I noticed that a lot of my peers were struggling with the business of people. They were growing, which was, amazing, but they had no idea how to interview, how to hire, how to navigate those relationships with friends and family that were there for them in the beginning. And they came to me because they knew that at that point I had 15 years of HR experience under my belt. And so just, navigating those conversations and helping them understand the business of people, those conversations led to consultations. And then those consultations led to a full-fledged business. And so that's how I started HR Consulting. And it's just been an amazing, incredibly rewarding journey so far. So that's kind of the story behind how I started both of those businesses. And they are both thriving today, even in the challenging times that we're in.
Yes, I love it.
So, yeah, when I think about like the common thread between the two is just really servitude. I love helping people. I love bringing peace to a situation. I know that many of us have worked in workplaces that became toxic, due to a couple of individuals or just poor communication or poor structure. So the clients that I work with are determined to get it right the first time, and I'm happy to help them do that. So it's really about having those healthy conversations and setting up structures and systems to hold people accountable.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
So with you building your business, did you have any issues yourself within the workspace that kind of inspired you to go the direction of HR?
Well, there were patterns that I saw. I've worked in just about every industry, in both corporate and nonprofit. And, over 15 years at that point, it's 18 years now, but there were just certain, no matter the company size, no matter the industry, people are usually people, so there are a lot of like principles and strategies and things that carried over and were able to work successfully. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. So it's less about my personal experiences, well, my experiences in HR, but not my experiences as an employee, but my experience, fixing and healing different situations that I wanted to bring to entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders. So it's a yes and no question. So yes, as far as my role goes, but not so much as far as my experience goes in the workplace.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely do confidence. How did you tell us a little bit about how you became the confident woman that you are today?
Ooh, that is a journey. Oh my goodness. It's, easy to say now, but I grew into what do you see today? And I am happy, to share the journey, because for the longest time, I was the one standing in my own way, especially when it came to Kasar Consulting. With Passports and Purpose, it was very easy to just hide behind the screen, because it was all about the apparel. It was all about the accessories. No one really cared who was behind it. The products spoke for themselves. But with Kasar Consulting, obviously you're paying for me. You're paying for my insight, for my expertise, and my experiences, and I have to bring my whole self to the picture. So that means that I'm stepping out from behind the curtain, onto the stage, into the spotlight. And at first, that was really uncomfortable. I was used to being the, magic behind the curtain. I didn't do it for recognition or accolades. I did it just because I wanted to help. And so when you think about, what that looks like when it's time to develop a consulting firm of your own, I eased into that journey. Because our consulting was private for the first 2 years. I only took new clients by word of mouth. I didn't do any advertising. I didn't do, any marketing. It was all through word of mouth. And at that point, by the end of that 2-year period, I was beyond my capacity, because I was still trading time for money, and working with clients individually. So I had to really change my business model so I could serve more people and help more people. And that is when I made it public. And so even, I always say that for Kasar Consulting, I had 2 launches, right? Like the first, when I formalized the business and everything. And then the second, when I made it public, because I guess my line of thinking was I didn't want to make it public initially because I wasn't taking on new clients. So I didn't want to be like, hey, look at all this awesome stuff I'm doing, but not for you, because I'm not taking on any new clients. It just didn't ring sincere to me. And I didn't want to turn people away that I knew needed me. So once I changed my business model to do more master classes and workshops and having, like a digital library for people to access,
Yeah.
I was able to, serve on a larger scale without burning myself out. So the biggest thing that I had to overcome was believing in my perspective and bringing that to the table. It's very unique because not only am I bringing the close to 2 decades of HR experience, but I've also been an entrepreneur myself. So I know exactly what it feels like to be vulnerable and trust somebody with your vision and, pray that they get it right. I know what it's like to, overcome all of those mental roadblocks and fears in order to, make your first hire. And so I can speak to that in a very sincere way. So it went from me not wanting to be visible at all to, doing things like this. And I always say it's, very ironic because in my corporate career, I did speaking all the time, but it feels different when you're doing it on your own behalf. It's a different experience. And while on the surface, it might seem the same, it's absolutely not. And so I gave myself, 2 years of pep talks and affirmations and, lots and lots of prayer to get to where I am, and to the point where, I just couldn't hide anymore because the word of mouth was beyond me, which is a good problem to have. I'm not complaining at all, but it definitely kicked me out of the nest and into, the spotlight. So I took off. And it's been an amazing journey. My mission hasn't changed. My approach hasn't changed. It's just that I had to really get over being visible and being confident. I'm confident in my purpose, even when doubt tries to creep up. It's not like I have it, all together. It's more about being confident in my calling. Like, this is who I'm supposed to be. And even in those moments where I'm unsure or when I'm nervous, I'm absolutely rock solid confident in my purpose. And that's what anchors me, even when I'm having conversations. So it's confidence in that, even when, I'm kind of shaky on, myself, I am rock solid because I know how long it took me to get there. For the longest time, I thought that anyone could do, HR if they were trained well, policies, procedures, paperwork, and all of that. But what I do and what I offer is so much more, because the end result is peace. When I'm doing conflict management and teaching people how to communicate effectively, or when I'm giving an entrepreneur breathing room by allowing them to grow their team, it's those moments that, kind of fuel me, because I know that if it changed their life, then there are many more lives waiting to be changed and impacted by the work that I do. So it's not saying that I don't do all of the paperwork and processes. I absolutely do, but I focus on the mindset and experience first. And that's super unique, because nobody thinks about that when they think about HR. Yeah. So those are some of the things I had to get over.
I think in entrepreneurship, and I love that you were so like real about it, because I think confidence is a journey. And I think with us seeing entrepreneurship and being a boss, we see like this glitz and glamour. But you just bringing light to just like, you have to do the internal work, because when we start these businesses, people are connected to the people, not necessarily to the actual product. Was there some things internally outside of your confidence that you had to go through to kind of really push yourself to the forefront to be confident with speaking about your business or just connecting with others?
I would say that from the outset, I wanted my journey to be very authentic and transparent. I didn't want to just, show the polished, final cut of everything. I wanted to be very transparent. And that's something that I'm still working on, how much to share, how much to scale back, because I don't want my message to overshadow my services, but at the same time, they are one and the same. So, just making sure that I'm bringing my whole self to the conversation. In my relationships with my friends and family, I'm known for being, pretty straightforward and blunt and having nothing to hide, because I feel like it's the most peaceful way to live. And so I bring that to the table. When I'm teaching these master classes, I open up with, it is going to be a journey. I am going into all of these different things that no one talks about. One of my favorite segments to teach is the emotional ride that entrepreneurs have to go through. So I talk about the hills and valleys of entrepreneurship, facing rejection, facing loneliness, if you're not surrounded by like-minded entrepreneurs. I talk about the navigating entrepreneurship with relationships, family relationships, romantic relationships, friendships. I talk about all of those things, and people are like, wait a minute, I thought you were HR, but I'm like, this is people. So I focus on people. And so it's really important for me to talk about the valleys, because everyone only sees the hills and the mountains, but it's so much more than that, because I want people, one, to have realistic expectations and know what they're getting into, because entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, and that's okay. I feel like today's society, like the narrative is, you have to monetize everything that you do, and that is just not healthy. Like some hobbies can just be hobbies, and that's okay. And so I don't want, external pressures or external narratives to force someone into a journey that they're just not ready for. Everyone does not need to have a side hustle or be an entrepreneur, and that is absolutely okay. So, those are the kind of conversations that I'm having, and that I was adamant that I do that from the beginning. I don't just want to talk about handbooks and policies and payroll and benefits, and again, like I said, I do offer those things, but when I'm working with clients or prospects, even just talking to people, for me, I have to do an assessment on where they are. And, because especially with entrepreneurship, people are like, oh, it's business, it's not personal, but it's inherently personal, because it's your vision, it's your baby, right? So you can't separate the two. And it's naive to think that you'll be able to separate your emotions from a vision that you were inspired to make reality. So yeah, I get into it.
I love it though, because it's just like, those are the things that we need to talk about more: the mindset, your emotions, how you take care of yourself. I know you mentioned previously about just not trying to avoid burnout? Was there a certain level of self-care that you had to reach within yourself as an
Oh,
entrepreneur?
yeah. Yeah, that's an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
Even now thinking about the new reality of, the shelter in place order,
Yeah.
and uh, just to be, fully transparent, I had to redo my whole self-care list, things that make me happy. Because at first, the entire list was composed of things that are outside. I love gardens. I love traveling. I love festivals and parties and things like that, and all of those are outside. So when I think about having my planner, my 2020 planner, and I had like all of these trips planned, I had all of these activities planned far out, because I am a type A personality. So I had everything for the first half of the year booked.
That was me.
Because it is self-care to me. Yeah, like it is self-care to me. Like a lot of people say they love traveling, but for me it is an act of self-care. So I had trips booked about every 5 to 6 weeks, just some longer than others, but it's very, very restorative to me. So getting to a place where I can be my own advocate and have my own self-care tools in place was a huge like graduating moment for me. Like at the January 1st, I was like, I am on it. 2020 is going to be lit. I got all this stuff planned. I'm taking care of myself. I'm checking off all of the boxes. And it wasn't until, I guess, maybe 2 weeks ago, where here in Chicago, we started getting notices that a lot of the festivals and concerts and things were going to be canceled. And that really drove the point home for me that this is, different. Um, and yeah, because summertime shy, honestly, if you ask any Chicagoan, that's why we're here, just for that season. It's a very short window, and it makes the winters bearable. So yeah, I had to revamp my whole list and focus on things that make me happy, like candles and face masks and taking walks and painting, a lot of inside activities that I hadn't necessarily given any attention to. So I am big on self-care, practicing self-care, even when it comes to, spiritual and emotional, mental self-care, because I do so much pouring out. A lot of times when people come to my office, or when I'm going to their offices, obviously I don't do that right now, but office visits are a common thing in my field of work. They're coming to me in crisis, right? They're coming to me because people are just acting up at work, and there's conflict, there is drama, and they are coming to me for a resolution. And again, it's rewarding. I know that I'm made for it, but I can't ignore the weight of it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I had to be proactive about, because when I noticed I wasn't doing it continuously, I felt the effects of it. I found it harder to leave work at work. And that was something I had to consciously do. And that was a big area of growth for me, because, we're so used to just carrying things, right? Even if they don't belong to us. So I had to make sure that I did the work to set boundaries. So I'm big on that as well. Because again, it's what I preach, right? So I have to kind of live it out. And so I'm always, not always, but more often than I used to, doing an inventory to make sure that I'm living out everything that I'm preaching, because it's important. And then again, I can share the transformation because I've lived it. So it's not me just sharing, hypothetical best practices. It's me sharing, no, like this actually worked for me. You need to do
Yeah.
this. And so, yeah, those are the things that I've changed and been more, more invested in, I would say.
Yeah.
Self-care is huge.
And
Yeah.
even when you speak about just people and interacting and them pouring into you, I feel like mental health is a big role that plays into that. There's so much that we can take on, but we have to be full before we can pour into other people. Was there a certain level of mental wellness that you had to practice? What did that kind of look like for you?
I would say, well, yeah, for mental wellness, I had to find healthy outlets to make sure that they didn't turn into vices, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't smoke, I don't drink, so I had to find like an outlet. So I started working out, and doing yoga, meditating, doing those things, helped a lot to help me feel centered. Um, but before I was kind of, just winging it, and I noticed that my sleep became really erratic, and I became nocturnal, which is just the opposite of how I'm wired. I'm naturally like a morning person. But I noticed I was up at like 2, 3 a.m., not doing anything in particular, just like up. And so like those are like huge red flags for me. And I didn't want to turn to, unhealthy patterns, because I'm like it's easy, right? Like it's easy to find comfort or solace in those things, and it just wasn't right for me. It's not judging anyone who chooses, but I just know that, especially based on past experiences, that it wasn't the healthiest for me. So I turned to working out, and that's made a huge difference. Even it doesn't have to be like intense cardio or whatever, but even doing things like taking, like 3-4 mile walks on days when there's sun, like, so it's not intense. Don't get me wrong, I feel it afterwards, but
The vitamin D.
but still, just the act of moving,
Yeah.
um, yeah, makes a huge difference. And these are things that are, relatively recent developments, so which is why I can talk about them so earnestly and sincerely, because these are things that I had to change this year. Um, and it's because my platform has gotten bigger, which means that, the clients I serve have gotten bigger. And with, especially given the times that we're in, the problems that I'm navigating are, again, more patterns. And I'm developing classes that speak to those new patterns, especially when you think about the remote workforce now and the things that they're going through. Um, I consider myself a refuge and an advocate for my clients and their employees. And it's important to make sure that they have the resources that they need to be successful. But like you said, you can't pour from an empty cup. So as far as mental wellness, it's important for me to set boundaries. I put alarms on my phone to unplug, because I can absolutely drown in my work if I let it happen. And it's one of those things where you don't even realize you're drowning because you're fixing, fixing, fixing.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love the work I do, but the fine print to that is I have to set hard boundaries on when to call it a day, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's me too. I recently learned that because I'm kind of working on and off, and I've been home for the past few days. I'm just like, just set alarms. You gotta set those boundaries. When
Set
it comes to you
alarm.
working with your clients, what's the number one thing that you tell them how to kind of create boundaries within the workspace?
I tell them to put self-care activities on their calendar like any other appointment, and be adamant about them. So if they want to work out in the mornings, or if they have classes at night, whatever, or if they have, lunch dates with their family, or, after school stuff with kids, whatever it is, put it on the calendar and honor it like you would any work appointment. You have to have that mindset that it's non-negotiable, because otherwise it is the first thing to be put on the back burner.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing for sure. Put it on the calendar. Um, put it on the calendar, and that way you'll hold yourself accountable to make it happen. Yeah, some people just need to see it
Yeah.
there to make it a reality. And I tell them there's no bending, there's no compromising. Like, honor it like you would any appointment. And it works. That's something I do. And so you have to change your perspective and see self-care as a necessity and not a luxury. And sometimes putting on the calendar, which is a small act, can speak to that new mentality, for sure.
Absolutely. When
Yeah.
you I'm thinking about other women entrepreneurs that could be similar to you that are kind of trying to
Mhm.
adjust to staying at home. What would you say to them where they feel like the women that feel like, okay, my business was planned out for the rest of the year, but now I have to shift gears? How can they really change their mindset to start creating a new plan for while
Mhm.
they're at home?
I would say one of the first things is to give themselves grace. A lot of us are too hard on ourselves, but literally nobody planned for this. So you
Yes.
just have to be honest, right? And say, like, no one planned for this. So you have to give yourself grace. You can't look at profits lost or, um, events that didn't happen or, whatever it is. You have to give yourself grace and know that this was just not in the cards for anyone.
Yeah.
Um, and the second thing is, don't be afraid to pivot. This is a time where you have a license to actually be creative with little to no repercussions. So, lean into it, because I see a lot of people are, trying new things or branching off. For me, I'm looking to continue to serve my clients, but in a different way that speaks to the new reality. So even something like the store, obviously passports, the collection, the travel collection, it's kind of stagnant right now, and that's okay because no one's going anywhere. But having the work from home collection, it's selling like hotcakes, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, because like I sat down with my team and said, hey, this is the new normal. Everyone's on Zoom calls and they're going to need something to wear. So let's see what we can create for that. So it's serving them, it's meeting them where they are. And like I said, the shirts are fun. It's just a good time. It's really my creative outlet. So I encourage viewers to check it out. But with Kasara Consulting, I'm doing a series of master classes that speak to remote work as the new normal. For entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders, it is absolutely naive to think that once outside opens back up, everyone's gonna just want to return to the office. And yeah, like this is, because you have people working remotely that have been told it's impossible to work from home. They've been told, there's no resources or, their job is impossible to do from home. But look, here we are and everyone's
Figured
doing it. And
it
productivity, for the most part, right, they figured it out when it was absolutely necessary. And so you can't expect people to be okay with just going back to the way things were without having policies and structure in place to support a remote workforce, even having it as an option. And so that's what I'm working on right now, a series of master classes to talk about a couple of things. So that phenomenon, what happens when it's time to return to work, just to make sure that you're ready. But then what does it mean to build a team remotely? Like, what does it mean to manage and create a sustainable culture
Right.
when a lot of people that are working from home are feeling isolated or confused or lost or not connected to the company right now because the communication is lacking. So virtual team building, that's a class. And then of course, just managing employees remotely, because a lot of my managers as clients, they don't want to micromanage, right? But they kind of want to know what their staff is doing. So, just balancing that, like how do I check in without nagging, or how do I make sure that my team is producing and things are getting done.
Yeah.
It's rooted in communication. And so yeah, that's one way that I pivoted Kasar Consulting to offer those classes, because it speaks to the new normal. I think that if your goal is to sincerely help and serve, whatever your business model is, there is room for you. There is absolutely room for you. I've seen companies, clothing manufacturers go to making masks right now because it is in high demand and it is a very real, not only an opportunity, but a need in the marketplace. I've seen a lot of different restaurants go to meal prep and, serving families that way. I've seen, oh my goodness, just so many different businesses pivot and do it successfully because their intentions were pure. So if you're pivoting only for profits, it probably won't work out. You
Yeah.
have to be able to give the people what they need, not what you think will just make you a quick buck. So, yeah, no one planned for this. So give yourself grace and get creative. Those are the top two takeaways for that question.
Yes, absolutely. I love that because it's almost like even though this is not the best time, people can
Yeah.
find time to get creative again to kind of, like you said, be more intentional about what they're providing for their people. I know
Mhm.
earlier you spoke about knowing your purpose and your calling. How was it that you found your purpose?
That was very organic. I didn't necessarily know that this was my purpose because I didn't value it. I didn't give it the proper honor that it
Yeah.
should have gotten. I will say, like when I share this and say it out loud, it's like, oh, it was obvious. Like, what's your problem? But in every, when I think about my entire corporate career, I've worked in just about every department. I've done
Yeah.
marketing, I've done design, I've done operations, I've done like the whole gamut. From like my very first internship all the way until now, and every single position I've had has included human resources.
Yeah.
Like it will be marketing plus human resources, like an add-on
Yeah.
that just naturally evolved over time. And so when it came time for me to fully step into Kasar Consulting, obviously I had to do my own resume, right, and think about the marketplace. And I kept just writing HR. And I was like, wait a minute, like this is a whole pattern. Like this is who I am. But it was seeing it written down that really ignited all the light bulbs. Like, wait a minute, this is really who I am. So I stepped into my current position, even as a director of a nonprofit for HR, and it was like I just felt like I fit. Yeah, I was promoted really, really quickly because of all of my contributions and everything I was bringing to the table. So it really affirmed my experiences and insight. And just to see things happen so rapidly while at the same time making that transition from public to private for Kasar Consulting, like it all came together. So it was more than this will help people. It's like, this is who you are. Like, and it is so rewarding and so fulfilling because when people think about purpose, they normally gravitates towards thinking about gifts or talents.
Yeah.
And while they can be aligned with your purpose, it might not be the same thing. Like I myself, I'm good at a lot of things, but this is like what I'm called to do. And just having that realization and having that confidence, because I didn't think it was a thing, right? When people think of purpose, like I said, they think of a talent or gift because it's
Yeah.
easy to label. But when I say, it's my purpose, like to be a peacemaker for different workplaces, because I know that the impact it makes. Too many of us spend a good 8 hours a day at work, and this should be a peaceful place. And so when I didn't know that was like a thing, right? Bringing peace to workplaces and peace to situations. So it took me, I guess taking labels off of what purpose could be, because I simplified it. And I'm like, oh, your purpose is, a dancer or an artist or a writer, like all of these different things. But it never occurred to me that like a peacemaker is like an actual thing. So I had to really step into that and embrace it. But it is innately who I am. And I've been this person the whole time. And I think that whatever someone's purpose is, once they realize it, you'll hear them say that. Like I've actually been this person the whole time. I didn't wake up and decide that this is what I wanted to do. Like it chose me. And I didn't, like I said, I did not see the pattern. And I had a long corporate career at different companies, and it just never occurred to me to lean into the human resources aspect of my jobs, plural. So, just thinking about that, it's like I said, it could seem obvious in hindsight, but hindsight is 2020, right? Like that's the saying. Of course, I'll be able to see it looking back, but at the time, it was just like, whoa, wait a minute, like all of these things. And yeah, I guess it's just something I took for granted. Like I would do, like my friends and family's resumes or whatever, but I didn't put any stock in it. It was just, like a skill. Like, yeah, I know how to make you look good on paper. I know how to document all of your, contributions and things that you've done. And, but so it was easy for me to see a purpose being like a career coach, like helping
Yeah.
people. But then and at first I thought that that's what I was going to do, but I had to turn my perspective and focus to say, no, I want to focus on the entrepreneurs themselves, like on the leaders, on the business owners,
Mhm.
to make sure that they're creating healthy environments for people to work. And, serving in that way makes a far bigger impact. And that's really what I want to do. I want people to get it right because we invest so much of ourselves in our work,
Yeah.
and we should be able to do it, in a really, really healthy way.
I love it because you're changing the culture of the workplace. A lot of times people think, okay, go to work. Even if I don't like it, I still got to do it to make money. But creating a
Mhm.
healthy environment makes you enjoy being there and really loving what you do. Um,
Yeah.
as you continue to walk into your purpose, what are some things that we can expect from you coming up um,
Ooh,
just in
yeah.
2020 or while we're at home?
Sure. So I have a lot of stuff coming. I'll start with passports and purpose. We are developing a line of backpacks, swimsuits. We're doing leggings, and what else? Beach towels, because we are in
Yeah.
faith that people are going to go back outside to the beach.
Yeah.
So we have some, bundles coming up, some summer bundles, and those are going to be so much fun. If you follow the brand, you'll see it's just fun times, like hilarious. And what I love about it is that we have a really active community. So like on Instagram particularly, we have over 10,000 followers, and they're always talking to each other.
That's awesome.
It's like a really cool community. So they're engaged, they get our sense of humor, and it's just really great to see like that happen organically. So a lot of new products and a lot of new collections. So we are not afraid to pivot, as you mentioned, to bring out things that speak to the new normal. So those limited time, collections, we're, proud to promote and put out because we know that, people want something to wear, right? And they want conversation pieces. And that's really, I guess, the standard. The standard is like, would I wear this? Do I find this fun? Do I find this meaningful? And if not, then it's not good enough. We have plenty of rough drafts that occur before we put something out. And, we do some beta testing and some focus groups and things like that. But it's really about, keeping the bar high. We're not just going to put something out to do it. And then for Kasar Consulting for 2020 and 2021 even, it's really all about education and meeting people where they are. So I'm really excited for this remote culture or remote workforce series. I'm developing, different classes that speak to different stages and really acknowledging that the new remote workforce is here to stay. In addition, there are some, virtual conferences and engagements that I'll be participating in. So you can look for me there. I'm not allowed to announce them yet, but please follow, follow me online and you'll be able to see everything that's happening. And in addition to that, we have a digital library that's being published because I noticed that even in my work with clients, some clients already understand where they are, what they need, need and they want to do it right. So giving them the templates to do that is something that I'm happy to do. Each template comes with a video, so you do still get that interaction and guidance on how to use it effectively, but it's really about the one and done, plug and play, quick fix. So I'm happy to do that as well. And then even beyond that, I'm launching the academy, is what I'm calling it. And there will be just so many different classes, because no matter, even if you're starting out and you're still working with family and friends, you need to know how to have those conversations.
Absolutely.
Or if you're already established and you have a full team, you still need to have those conversations. So I'm so excited to start releasing things that speak to every stage of the journey. And if I had to point to one thing that I'm most excited about, is the classes that speak to the mindset, that really speak to what it means to be an entrepreneur, because I want people to have a very well-rounded and holistic expectation when stepping into entrepreneurship. And then that way they'll make sure that they can be successful, that they have capacity, emotional, mental, even physical capacity to handle that journey, and know what they're getting into. I feel like a lot of people start out with a good idea and a great vision, but they have no idea what it means to make it a reality. And a lot of times they're like, if I had known this, I wouldn't have signed up. Like, this is way too much. I'm doing the absolute most. And so I want people to, set the expectation. It's not to deter anybody, but it's more just so, just take an assessment. If you're not there yet, then there are things you can do to get there. But it's just saying, I want to make sure that you're ready to lead, you're ready to move forward and go. So lots of good things coming up. I'm always excited to share.
Of course.
Sure.
So where can we stay connected with you and all of your businesses?
Sure. So for Passports and Purpose, it is passports with an S and purpose.com. We're on Facebook, Passports and Purpose. We're on Instagram, Passports and Purpose. And be sure to follow us. We're always coming out with new products. We're taking polls and quizzes and having conversations and doing different brand collaborations. And so, like I said, it's super fun. It will absolutely keep you entertained and distracted while you're stuck in the house. So be sure to follow us there. For Kassar Consulting, that is kassarconsulting.com. That's KASSAR consulting.com. We're on Facebook at Kassar Consulting Chicago. We're on Instagram at Kassar Consulting. And if you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can absolutely find me at Courtney Underwood. And both brands are also on LinkedIn as well. So we have a big digital footprint. Be sure to, send a message. Definitely leave a comment if something resonates with you. We respond to each and every comment. We're big on, again, transparency and just having conversations and having a good time.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much for this interview and sharing your story and your expertise. Was there anything else that you would like to share with us before we go?
Sure. I would say that when it comes to entrepreneurship, make sure that you have a solid support system in place. That's one of the things that I see a lot of entrepreneurs lacking when they first start out. It's not saying that they don't have support at all, but they don't have the support of their peers, and it's different. You're going to need someone with you that understands what it is to be an entrepreneur. Preferably someone either, with you on that journey, or someone further ahead than where you are, so they can fully prepare you for what it's like. But, just make sure, don't be afraid to reach out and seek that community, because it's so much better to have it than to realize that you need it and you have no idea where to start. Yeah. So there's power in community. So I look forward to connecting.
I love it. And they can join your community.
Yeah, follow me. You see, I talk. So absolutely reach out and we'll be connected. I love making new connections. I'm in the business of people, so it's all about people for me.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Of course.